Hello and welcome back to Realms of Forgotten Worlds video tutorials. Alright, this is video number 2 and I'm your host Albert Taylor, author of book Realms of Forgotten Worlds. Alright, I thought it would be a nice time today to talk about the book, since there are of course questions about the book and what it's about. We already mentioned what is a multi-option sci-fi. So if you're watching this video and you haven't seen that yet, that would probably help this subject, to help your understanding of what this book is all about, or what the basis of it is in reality. Okay, so let's continue. As I mentioned before, this is video 2. Okay, very great achievement of mine, since I've never done videos before. But here we are, video number 2. And I'd like to thank everybody for watching again. So if you liked the first video, very pleased to be showing this one now. Alright, so let me repeat this one. As in the first video, I already explained this, but for those who are just watching, a little bit about the book. This book has 71 decisions, which I am in fact very proud of, since that was no easy task. 234 chapters, which may seem a lot, but in reality it isn't. Since this book has a lot of movement and a lot of action, a lot of different ways things can go. So each decision is actually a chapter, so there's a lot of chapters for there to be 71 decisions. We have 70 tragic endings, which some people may like, some may not, but it's part of the story. It has to end if you decide very, very poorly. It has to end some way. And there's one goal in the whole book: stay alive. And reality is to reach book 2, which is a very, very nice goal. Even though I found myself, even though I wrote it, I found it really entertaining to read into again. It's kind of spoiled for me anyway since I wrote it, but it's fun anyway. Just read back into it and go a different way and see how good or bad you can make things go. Alright, so we're going to be looking at the subject of this book is looking at parallel worlds and the possibilities. And like it says here on the cover, from a very unique point of view. Alright, so back to the main question. What is Realms of Forgotten Worlds all about? Alright, very good question. Science fiction. Science fiction is a very, very good topic for me. I've loved it since I was a kid. So always wanted to make something different though. Even though when I was a kid I couldn't really grasp what that is. Ironically, always found it really difficult to end the book. I tried a few times. I was around 12 years old at the time. Got really, really close, got to the typical climax of the story, got to the end more or less, but I really couldn't end it. So it's really ironic now that this book has a lot of endings. 70 tragic endings, and haven't counted how many heroic endings, and only the endings going to book 2 as well. I'll count that up and I'll include in the next video perhaps. But, well, more or less you get the idea, right? So now, I have the book with many endings, which is perfect for me, because ending a book, I think even now when I'm an adult, it's something difficult. I think it's a challenge for all authors. Imagine for science fiction too, which is really a challenge. Alright, so that's basically what it's about. Parallel worlds, different decisions, you making the choices and getting into trouble and seeing how far you can get into the story. In the end objective, see if you can get to book 2. Alright, that's a good objective, isn't it? Now, let's get into the complicated part of the book. Not really complicated, but this is where a lot of people usually feel intimidated, especially if they're a writer and considering this type of work. But it's not that hard. It just gets complicated as you go, and you just keep adding things on. The difficult part is keeping organized, and it has to become a habit for this type of project to become possible. We talked about that before, but I'll reintegrate it here because it is very, very important. Organization. Do it again. Reorganize, and you organize again. Okay? That might become the new slogan. But it's the truth. Just gotta organize, organize, and organize. And in these types of maps, it's no different. But, okay, let's begin. Right here in the beginning, this is the beginning of the map here, the map beginning complete. Alright, this is actually the very first part I started on, the central idea. Not really idea, but just kind of like an anchor for the middle of the map. As it got bigger and bigger, I just needed a big green circle there in the middle to be oriented again if I needed to go back. And it worked. Alright, let's focus a little bit more here on the map. Okay, see here the first chapter, allies from the past. I gave these little numbers and it worked very well. It was a nice way to keep organized even in Word when I had the individual chapters. That's another tip I can give people. Have each chapter separate, especially for Word. It gets really, really slow once you get over 1,000 pages in the physical book. 1,326 got really slow unless you're using an older version of Office. But anyway, that's a tip anyway if anybody wants to use it. Have each chapter separate. Works a lot faster. Unfortunately, if you're going to add up all the pages, it's easier to have in one single file. But, well, you can do that as you go. Of course, there's going to be many corrections as well. And from experience, here's a very good tip. Could save you a lot of time. It's a lot easier to modify one file than 2 or 3 or 4. Okay, so mostly we'll take this into account. You're going to be finding errors every time you read into your file. So if you want to correct only one file, that's a whole lot better than correcting 4. It's going to take a whole lot of time too, and doing that, believe me, was a really, really hard thing to do. Okay, well, that's just a tip there if anybody wants to use it. But let's get back to the book. That's what everybody wants to see here. I have some people asking me about the book. And thanks for asking because that's really greatly appreciated. Let's see if there's interest in the book. Alright, so, okay, we see our first chapters here. Here's a deleted chapter. That's going to happen. You have chapters that are too short. People don't like really, really short chapters, especially editors. Get criticized for that. And that's also a different story. But let's see here. This here, finding people. This is a round circle. Designated round circles for chapters, meaning it's a decision. Okay, that worked out really well for me. If you want to use it, that's great. Okay, so in this chapter we decide. Let's see here, use the mouse here. Go after missile silo or follow coordinates. This is a part of the book. It's kind of a warm-up. These decisions weren't really too complex, and there's a reason for that. Just kind of wanted to warm people up. People weren't familiar to this idea. They wouldn't get frustrated if they go off a different line and ends up bad so early in the story. That's why this is kind of like a warm-up. It's really short. You go after missile silo, no, it ends. But not too long so people don't get frustrated. Okay, so they just go back a chapter, finding people again. Take the other route, follow coordinates. And that turns out really well. Although you see here, follow coordinates is also a decision. Okay, that's also on purpose. Okay, so we see sacrifice ship or sacrifice probe. One turns out bad, one turns out good. And that's the way it goes. Then we got these chapters over here. You see another deleted chapter here. Okay, just too short. I just added it onto another chapter, and there we go. The good thing about having a map is that you can go back in and analyze the chapters. You have one before, one behind. Which one do you want to add it in? Boom. Okay, a whole lot easier if you have a lot of handwritten notes on your desk, and believe me, that's not a very good idea, especially if you have kids. Alright, so this is a good idea, especially now that I'm working in a 3D project, Unity, 3D, game engine. I won't spoil it too much now, but I'll do a different video on that for the people who are really, really interested. Let me know if you are, because I really don't want to give too much away right now. But this map also, for making scenes, that's perfect. Oh, I forgot to take this out here. Scene the beginning. Okay, start naming scenes, and it contains all these chapters. Oh, the map is perfect for that. So I actually use the map as a guide as I'm working in the 3D engine, and wow, you wouldn't believe how much easier that is. Okay, so we see the beginning here of the book. Getting back to the subject of the book, it's really easy to get sidetracked. We have the beginning, which is a different section of our book. Here we get to decide if we want to continue as our main character Scott, or if we want to continue as another character, Elkin. Okay, so really doesn't make a difference because you see here, this one and this one, they come back to this. Okay, well, a little spoiler for the story, the two characters become one, because in the theory of parallel worlds, you can't have two people occupying the same space. Okay, well, that's a typical one in science fiction. Okay, so basically our main character, every world he goes, he kind of like kills his other side in that world. A little spoiler there, so you can be expecting that here in the book. This part right here is where it gets really, really complicated. I won't tell you how much time I spend sorting this part of the story out, but here it is. We find here. This is actually one of my favorite parts, despite it being so complex and the headaches it gave me sorting it out. But here, right here, inside the void, is when our character has his very first major decision. This one will define the book. Okay, he has to decide on this one here, dark blue opening, which, if you haven't read the book, then probably you shouldn't be seeing this too much. You wouldn't want to go that way because it ends very abruptly in the story. Well, the green one too. Okay, so the two main decisions here, you can go the red opening or the light blue opening. Okay, actually both of them very good chapters. I won't give that away too much. Unless somebody asks me, of course, but write it in the video and see what I can do. But not to give too much of the story away. Just kind of giving a general idea how this goes and how complicated it can get. And for those wanting to write this type of multi-option science fiction, what to expect and how to do it. Because believe it or not, this system took me quite a while to finally sort out. Because this map can be really complicated. Throughout the whole process, I had maybe 5 maps, if I remember correctly. So there's some things you might want to do correctly from the get-go, or things could go kind of badly and get discouraged and all your time spent on nothing. Alright, well, getting back to the story again, not getting sidetracked too much anymore. Okay, we see here in the map, taking the red route was actually a good idea. We have many more decisions here. One down there, one here, travel science lab there. Actually, the red world, let's talk about that some. Because basically what we did, we had the beginning on Earth. Okay, well that could be kind of slow. Yeah, just a basic like kid on Earth, and actually it's really, really difficult to make something like that interesting, but I'm very proud to say that I did, and it turned out very well. Okay, then we kind of got into what the science fiction part is. You had a lab accident, military, as always, got their hands into it, and the experiment turned, wiry, and our character Scott got transported to a parallel world. Alright, so here in the red world, actually, well, a little spoiler, is parallel world was once technologically very advanced, and going to space didn't turn out very well for them. They brought something back, and Scott encounters the world almost void of life. Well, human life, that is. But, of course, well, maybe not of course, some worlds he goes to, there's no life at all. But here, You eventually find some people. They've been frozen to save the population, of course. And here, if you're a woman, you'll probably like it if you like a romance, kind of mixed in a little romance, even though I'm not really a romantic type person. I don't consider myself to be anyway in the writing point of view, but yeah, you can get some of that here. There's science fiction, of course, as well, some suspense, but some romance mixed in as well. See, the red world is actually pretty intense. It goes all the way over here, and you can change the book too if you read into it correctly. If you don't, we're not saying it's the wrong way to go, we reach the brown world. Maybe I could clarify that a bit more. And the colors aren't really simple-minded colors. The colors are actually the colors he sees from the... we're looking at wormholes here, and wormholes, if you know the theory from science fiction, are actually scientifically kind of proven, more or less. But in the theory, you can kind of see the color on the other side. Kind of reflects the color back, refraction. Can't really get a clear image, but you can get more or less a color. And that's the theory here. So he's on one side of the wormhole, looking the other side, and there's basically the color he sees is the color we assign to this part of the book. So the red world, he sees a red reflection from the side, the red world. And this part here, he sees a reflection of brown, the brown world. Even though further in the book he doesn't see those colors, but it's the same entrance into the same world. But, okay. A whole lot easier to identify the world by color. That's why I wanted to give a code name or something like that. That wouldn't be too poetic, would it? Alright, so the brown world is a very, very intense world. Very complex. It's an underground world, also where humans mess things up. I won't get in too much of that because that will spoil the book for some. Scott wants to stay here because there's a little bit more romance here, a little more intense. A lot of people will probably like this. Well, certainly women. Okay, well, there's quite a few decisions here. It's got a little complicated. And here we find a really short chapter here. Turns out really bad for character Scott. I won't get into that because that really would spoil that part there. Okay, so if everything goes well and you come out in one piece, you find the desert world, which is also a very intense world where he finds his mentor, our main character Scott, or you the reader. He gets trained and then he can survive even more worlds because of this. It's like his mentor is what he did, but in a natural way without artificial technology to make wormholes and all that. Okay, worked out really nicely. It's I kind of wonder how he did that. It's kind of a weird thing. It's like, wow, how did I figure all that out? Well, I just kind of got together. Well, that's where the map helped out a lot. You can go in and say, hey, that would be a really good idea, even though you have to really connect it this way. Here you see this line here, it goes there. Sometimes it comes back to another part of the chapter where your experience has to kind of coincide. If it doesn't, then you have some weird contradictions there, and people will notice. So you got to pay attention to your map and kind of use logic. Maybe some hand notes there. Scott got a scar in this world. If he goes to the other world, he has to get a scar for it to converge at one point. Well, some tips there too for somebody who wants to write a book this way. Alright, so we see if everything goes well in the desert world, which is really hard because he has a really hard time there in that world. But if everything does, here's one of my favorite chapters here, the light blue world. Oh, that doesn't start immediately like that, light blue world. Not at this point anyway. You can get there another way, through another chapter. And that's where I'm talking about the experience coinciding, converging at one point. Really complicated, but worked out here. Okay, the light blue world. If you like space adventure, yeah, you definitely want to read into this one to get there. Don't try to finish the book too fast. because this is a really good chapter for those space explorers out there. I know I am. Okay, and this one ends really, really well. Although, no, it doesn't tie into book 2. Now, this is from a different world here. Yeah, it doesn't tie into book 2, but it does have hero endings, which is really good. It's almost the next best thing, isn't it? Have a hero ending. You say, wow, I read into the book really well and ended a hero, which is perfect. Or you could go all the way down here. If you're lucky enough, retire 1 point. Oh no, I was wrong. Okay, you can change book. So many endings, I kind of forget that. Okay, so you can change book here at the very, very ending. Okay, my bad. Okay, so that's a light blue world. Recommend those who are reading in the book and reach another type of ending, try to find the light blue one. There's some pleasant surprises in there for the people who like surprises. Alright, we go back to the desert world. We see here it's a very complex world. Actually, it's a kind of a middle part in the whole story. You can go to different worlds from here, which is really, well, in my language, it's awesome. Actually, it is. And here, the purple world is something actually I was gonna take out, since I was more focused on the physical book at this point. I was thinking, wow, this is gonna be a really thick book. Yes, and actually it is 1,326 pages. I was really tempted to take this part of the book out because this added another, say, 200 pages more or less, if I remember correctly. And I was almost about to take it out, but I really like the subject. This is a world where it's kind of like trashed by humans as contamination at historic levels. It's just acid rain, but acid that really eats stuff up. Okay, but basically our character enters here. He has a pretty difficult time because of the contamination. Where he's at, there are people, not very happy people, but if you're the type of reader who likes to see that conflict entre different types of people, obviously Scott comes from a different type of worlds, clean and breathable air, and these people here don't really have that luxury. Well, if you like the subject of ecology and all that, this is where you want to end up. Okay, yeah, change book. I don't read that. That's not really, really nice. There's a really bad ending there. But he gets to change the book 2. Not very happily, but he does get there. Alright. Okay, so if you like nature and all that, that's where you want to end up. If not, if you want to go terror, then we choose the black world. Alright, this is an interesting type of topic. One that I probably wouldn't have thought of my own, but had like a dream. This world is, well, here's a little spoiler here. This world is being, what do you say, it's drained of life by another parallel world, kind of like a vampire world or something. And it's almost given up all of the life. There's people here, but kind of a reflection of the planet. The people are also kind of like the same state of dreariness, and it's terror. If you know terror, it's this is the atmosphere. There's a lot of fear, superstition. Scott finds that out pretty fast. He's not too happy about it, but he's there, and there's no way back. Unlike other worlds, this way he kind of is forced into the whole story of terror here. Okay, and this is a really complicated world, even more complicated than the desert world. You see here, it has a lot of twists. This really challenged my abilities here to be able to work things out and converging experience at different points. Really tricky. Very, very tricky. But it worked out. It was some effort, of course. It's a very long chapter, too. Of course, you don't have to read all the pages, as I've mentioned before. Okay, so we have different points, very serious decisions here. Decisions that could go very badly. Decisions could go very, well, kind of good. Not extremely good, but you can kind of survive. And this one, now that I remember, doesn't connect to book 2. It's kind of like terror. It doesn't always end up like you want it. But, well, people like terror really like this part. So I really do recommend reaching this part in the story if you like terror. Alright, and as always, if you have any comments or questions, if you're reading the book and you get stuck anywhere, just send me an email here in the video comment. I'm going to try to be really thorough. Even though I'm working on the 3D version of the book, I'm going to try really hard. Like some other the videos I've been on, you leave a comment and they never answer. I won't do that. I'm going to try to answer every one. Okay. And so, well, leave your comment, your email, and well, help me out on book 2. So I need some more ideas too. I'm just getting started on book 2. I'm going to try to do it at the same time as the 3D version of the book. See if that works out. Anyway, I'll let you know. I'll leave updates on my Facebook page. You can look for me there. I'll be telling you just how easy or hard things are going if I'm going to advance a lot more in book 2. But I'd love to hear you there, and hope to hear your comments. Thanks for watching. Okay, I think we reached the limit of our time, so we find ourselves at the end of this video. Hope you really liked it, and hope to see you at our next tutorial. Before I end this video, I'd like to give my email here, alberttaylor77w@gmail.com, and also look for us on Facebook, Multi-Options Sci-Fi. Hope to see you there. Bye-bye.